This is the iPad, the original iPad. It was released in early 2010 and, well, it was a phenomenon. Fuck off. After 80 days on the market, over 3 million iPads had been sold. By the time the second generation iPad rolled around, almost 20 million had been sold. The concept of having something to play music on, watch videos, etc. on a bigger screen, it was amazing. You know, everyone loved it. It was amazing. It was beautiful. However, it did get its fair share of criticism. It had a lack of wireless sync. That's about it. People couldn't get enough of the iPad. It was a game changer for Apple. It was a game changer for every other company out there. All of this was obviously a decade ago. So the question is, how does this first generation iPad hold up now? Well, just a quick summary at the start. Pretty well. This iPad was purchased around 8.5 years ago and it's had a lot of usage, a few falls here and there. And look at it. It's still in beautiful condition. It still runs fine. The weight of the first generation iPad varied. It was all completely dependent on the connectivity option chosen. The Wi-Fi only variant weighs 680 grams, whereas the cellular variant weighs 730 grams. You know, whatever the choice, it's heavy. When I compare this to my current iPad, I have an iPad Pro 2nd generation, you know, the difference is 100% noticeable, but more so in the dimensions, not so much the weight. In terms of the weight, there's only about a 200 gram difference, which I suppose on paper sounds like quite a lot, but in reality, your wrists are more than capable. You can carry both iPads without any long-term effects upon your wrists. In fact, when testing, I managed to carry the first generation iPad for 4 days and 8 hours, whereas with the second generation iPad Pro, I only managed 2 days and 2 hours. So there is a difference. I have scientific bloody evidence. But seriously, I actually find the extra weight on the original iPad makes it feel more premium, more robust. It makes you feel, you know, as if you drop it, it's not gonna smash or crack. It feels like something you've paid a lot of money for. I like that feeling. Whereas the iPad Pro 2nd generation, it genuinely feels like paper. It's really light. It's really thin. Like you feel like you could snap it, which I suppose, you know, the only advantage to that is it's easier to carry round, but it just, for me, I honestly love the design of the first generation iPad. I love that extra weight, that extra bolt. I don't care how it looks. I actually prefer that look myself, but the original iPad possesses a pretty nice display, a 9.7 inch display with a resolution of 1024 x 768 XGA LED backlit IPS LCD display. Oh my god. Yes, even then Apple made their displays sound just better than they were. The original iPad had a A4 processor, 256 megabytes of RAM, the CPU clocks at 1 gigahertz, and it has some PowerVR SGX 535 for the graphics, whatever the fuck that was in that day. But for that time, even then, the iPad, you know, it didn't have amazing specs even for that time. I know it sounds terrible now and you might think at that time it was very good, but even then, compared to other devices, that was not amazing. But I think what this comes down to, and that's even true to this day, you notice with iPhones, iPads, whatever you want to call them, they don't have loads of RAM in or whatever. But the thing about Apple is their software is so well optimized. Everything's already so fluid, etc. So multitasking, whatever you want to call it. You know, this original iPad may only have 256 megabytes of RAM, and you know, the modern iPhones, iPads, whatever you want to call it, may only have 4 gigabytes of RAM, 3 gigabytes of RAM, when you're seeing other devices having up to 12 gigabytes. But the software is so well optimized, you don't need it. And I think that's the beauty of Apple, really, how well optimized they make their software. And I'm just going on, what am I doing? Anyway, those specs, for the time, they're fine. Back then, no one edited 100 minutes of 8K footage on their iPad. Nobody had thousands of apps operating simultaneously in the background. Back then, you know, the iPad was used for opening the calendar app, opening the calculator app, you know, for decoration. Seriously, still, the performance on this iPad, I've got to say, like, we're talking, this is, I think it's even more than 10 years old now, but seriously, like, even browsing the web, it does a good job. Opening games, it does a job. I was expecting some serious lag, some serious delay, but the crazy thing is, it's still very much usable to this day. Of course, it's slow, but it works, and it works not, you know, the same amount of time a modern device would, but it still works in a respectable amount of time. Obviously, if you're actually thinking, oh, this sounds great, I might get myself an original iPad. No, it's currently running iOS 5.1, and there's no option to upgrade from there, so you can't download pretty much any apps. You can't really do anything on it, like... I say that, some apps do work. I've got Battle Bears and Circle, and yeah. So let's talk about the camera. The iPad first generation possesses a 0-megapixel front camera with no lens and a 0-megapixel rear camera with no lens. Obviously, upon first examination, that may seem like a flaw, but actually knowing that, you won't have a fucking weirdos taking photos with their fucking tablet. No, seriously, I couldn't care. I don't know why you'd need a camera on an iPad, a tablet, whatever. Anyway, I suppose maybe scanning something might be the only thing for it, but I mean, come on. Seriously, I'd rather not have a camera on my iPad at all. It's just an extra thing in the way. I hate it. Hello, right? Okay. One thing I do love about the original iPad, if it still has that physical home button, and I do love that. My actually second generation iPad Pro still does have that home button, but going on from that, the iPad Pro third generation and the new fourth generation iPad no longer has a home button, and obviously on the newer iPhones as well, home button is gone, and I miss that. I really do. I just love that. I feel like it's just, you think of Apple when you see that home button, you press it, it's physical, it's nice, it's beautiful, and is gradually going because, you know, people want less bezel, and so they want kind of this infinity display look. And I actually like the bezel because obviously, look at this. When you're holding the iPad, you hold it on the two bezels. Like if you're watching something, you're holding it there. If you're playing a game, you're holding it there. And obviously, if you have less bezel, you're pretty much holding the screen, and you could mess things up on the screen or whatever. And I'm explaining this really badly, but that's just how I feel. So I couldn't care less about bezels. I'd rather be the phone a bit bulkier, a bit bigger, but keep the bezels because I actually quite like them. That's just my opinion, probably not a very good one. But on the original iPad, the home button still feels quite good. It doesn't feel too stiff, it doesn't feel too loose. You can still stroke it, you can sniff it, you can do what you want with it, whatever you want. It's amazing, beautiful. There's no integrated fingerprint scanner, unfortunately, but who cares? You know, is really, I suppose, when you have a password instead of a fingerprint sensor, you do lose about 3 or 2 seconds, and that is precious time. I understand. The battery. The original iPad possesses an 11,580 milliamp hour battery. Yes, that's right, you heard me. When we compare that to the latest iPad, the third generation, well, the fourth generation's out now, but not properly out, but it completely demolishes it. It demolishes it. The iPad Pro third generation, this is a 12.9 inch model, possesses a 9,720 milliamp hour battery. 12.9 inch model. The original iPad was a battery beast, I suppose. Obviously, I suppose that's compromised with the bulky design, but as I stated earlier, I don't mind that. I really don't. Wouldn't you rather have a bigger battery but a device that's a bit bulkier? Because honestly, I don't want an iPad that feels like paper. Anyway, this iPad first generation been a very weird review, but it's been enjoyable. And kind of to summarize, the original iPad still works. And that says a lot about it. It still works in 2020, and it's usable. You can use it. Obviously, it's on iOS 5.1.1, so you have a serious restriction when it comes to downloading apps, and that has a serious effect. So yeah, just don't buy the original iPad because you can't really do much on it. But if you just want to browse the web, open the calendar app, open the notes app, do what you want with it. Decoration, as I said, put up on the wall, frame it, put it up on the wall and look at it. It's beautiful, it's fantastic. But in all seriousness, it still works. But obviously the iOS 5.1, the software, yeah, that's the big drawback. But overall, should you buy one? Yes. If any idiot wants mine, I'll happily give it away for a reasonable price of, the bidding would start at £170. No, seriously, if anyone wants this original iPad, then put it in the comments and you can have it. Or just message me. I'll give you my Twitter is in the description. If you want it, you can have it. Just DM me and I'll send it over to you. I don't know why anyone bought that. I just want to get rid of it. I fucking hate it. No, I'm joking. This is a really weird review. But anyway, thank you for watching this video. Please like and subscribe, and good night.